Hello, my Dynamics community. It's your host, Mariana, here to welcome you to the Dynamics Show, where personal development and wellness meets real life. We know that there's no one-size-fits-all path. Your unique journey is your greatest gift, so let's uncover the reason you are here and explore what's possible together. Let's align with our dynamic well-being daily. Today, our discussion recording will be about exploring the subject of one of our dynamics, adult dynamics. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be titled, but it will be about adulting. I have the pleasure of being joined by, if you haven't heard her, met her, listened to her before, we're doing this whole year together of these dynamics. It is Makota. Makota, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome. Glad that you could join us on this, even though you're not feeling 100%. I appreciate the adulting part of this and getting through what needs to be done.
Exactly. It's very fitting.
Yeah. So we usually ask the question, why this subject? Well, again, we're doing all of the dynamics from the Dynamics series, as Dynamic Show is a part of this Dynamic series, and now we're on adult. So, Makota, I'll just ask you up front, what do you feel when you think of adult dynamics? What's the first thing that you think of?
I just think about the day-to-day choices and expansion of adults, really, and how just kind of like how dynamic series is that we kind of go from kid dynamics to teen dynamics, and now we're going to that adult dynamics. It's the progression of how are the themes and how are the things that we talk about able to progress as our viewers go into adulthood and how they can progress through that.
Yes. Before it was kid, tween, teen, young adult.
Yes.
And then adult, but we wrapped that whole adult into one thing. So
That's true.
And you've gone through it because you're 26. So well, again, depending on what definition for age wise, some people say you be adult as young as 18. And then if you look up the definition, which we'll go over in a bit, it's more of a maturity thing, being of age, and depending on what country you live in, depends on what number that might be. But that doesn't always mean you feel like an adult or you want to be an adult or you're ready to be an adult.
Very true, yes.
So before we get right into it deeply, I like to set the tone for our time together, as it's more than just a podcast. We're here to remind you that flowing through each one of us is this dynamic energy that is ours to use every single day. And that's why the day in dynamics is capitalized. It is a daily choice to live dynamically. Take a moment and center ourselves, be fully present, and listen with an open heart and mind. Since we know that what we focus on expands, and part of being dynamic is constantly changing, being open to new ideas, and always becoming something. So let's start by asking the question, can you relate our audience and our listeners, our community, to wondering why adulting can be so challenging sometimes? that shift, and when did you find that shift sort of happened for you? Was it organically 18 or was it 21 or was it just a natural progression? So community audience and listeners, you can answer that for you. Makota, you're my guest here. So let's have the conversation and discussion about, when do you feel like you were an adult?
Well, for me, I felt like it was after I had graduated with my bachelor's, so maybe a bit later than many people might consider it, but I was 24 at the time, and I felt that that was my first big milestone into adulthood because I could finally feel like I was out of school and that school would allow me to get, a big girl job and to be getting a full-time job and be getting those benefits and starting to save up and thinking about the future. And that was kind of the realization that that was the first real milestone maybe in my head of being an adult, even though I have been considered an adult way before that, but it made me feel like I'd actually grown up a little bit to continue and finish something so massive in my life.
That's good to sort of know that point where you sort of feel like, okay, well, I feel this now,
Right.
like I feel it. Because when you look up the definition of adult online on, Oxford Languages or dictionary.com or even AI, it talks about defining an adult as a person who is fully grown or developed. Well, I don't know. The whole maturity level and the whole like the way someone's physicalness and their mental and emotional and spiritual side develops. And then the other definition part is a person who has attained the age of majority and is therefore regarded as independent, self sufficient, and responsible. Does self sufficient mean, I wonder, you could still be living with roommates or you could still be living with parents or guardians or friends or by yourself? You could still fit all of that. You could still be independent, self sufficient, and responsible. I don't know, how do you feel about it? But like adult could be, there's not an age you can put on in being an adult per
Yeah,
se.
I definitely agree because everyone's journey is completely different, and that's something that as an adult now that I've had to realize is, maybe you'll go on social media or maybe you'll go and see some of your old classmates and realize that maybe their life path to being an adult and what their choices were is completely different from you, and they might have had all those milestones earlier than you, or maybe they're behind you and there's no limit on when that moment of adulthood happens because it's all the circumstances that provide for your life and not for everyone else's. So that's a nice thing to think about, is that it is a journey for every single person to go on, and it's not necessarily about whatever people are doing around you.
Yeah. And that's a good explanation from your perspective. Again, everyone has a different life path. Being an adult is, we can follow the definitions of it, but the definitions sometimes aren't even as clear. Define what you think is an adult with however you want it to be.
Right. With the
So,
choices that you make. Yes.
and the choices that, yeah. We do have like milestones in adult life. Do you want to go over a few of them?
That
That
sounds good.
career development. You finish your school, so then you could go to a career. So, do you think career development is part of an adult life?
Yes, I definitely think so. When I look at all the other jobs that I had beforehand, they were all part-time or freelance or not really like high stakes, I guess you could say. But after getting my bachelor's degree in education, my first real big job was being an elementary school teacher. And that really felt like I was stepping into adulthood, especially because most of my coworkers were older and had so much experience that I felt like I was in a field that valued being an adult in a way, whereas other ones I had a lot of coworkers that were just getting out of high school or maybe were just starting college. So the age group that I was working with felt less adult and more playful, I suppose.
Yeah. And then you're responsible for kids.
Yes, that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. So the next one, financial independence, managing your own money and making responsible choices with it. How do you feel about that key point?
That's definitely a big one. I think the biggest thing that I've talked about is that when you first get your big girl job, your first one, is that it's being able to manage that amount of money that you're pulling in. When you had those smaller jobs, maybe you weren't making as much, and so you were a lot more lenient with how much you were spending. And it's kind of having that balance between, okay, now I can buy bigger things for myself, but I also want to start saving up for ventures or moving out. So it is a big adult thing to have those financial abilities.
Yes. Then, yeah, you're thinking about longer term, like, okay, do I want to rent a house? Do I want to buy a house? Do I want to travel? Do I want to like focus it just on the career side of things. Like
Right.
there's all these things. Okay, how much do I want to save? There's all these questions that need to be right and answered for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Long-term relationships, building deep friendships and romantic partnership. You have a fiance
Yes.
and long-term relationships, like even, you think about family, you think about friends, you think about, like it says, romantic partnerships. You guys have been together for what, 7 years?
6.5
Six
years.
and a half
Yeah.
years. And a lot of that sometimes has been long distance stuff and both going to school and both doing careers and then seeing each other, but still being able to have that bond. Like 6.5 years, you think about that, is when you were 20, right?
Yeah, we started dating before either of us were in school. Either of us had big jobs. We were still, both living with our parents. And so it's just crazy to think about how much we've changed since that point, that I've gotten my master's degree and I have a full-time job, and that my fiance has an apartment and a car and also a full-time job and has also graduated with a bachelor's, and that over those 6.5 years, we went from kids in my mind and teenagers to, getting into that adulthood that we're continuing into now.
Yes. Oh, and don't forget to mention, if you didn't hear the last podcast, that she also has her master's.
Yes, now.
Masters in adulthood, but
Yes.
also masters in your education. What's your full title?
It's a Master of Education and Advanced Teaching for K to 12 specialization.
So we're so proud of you. Congratulations
Thank you, yes.
on this podcast. Sure, from anyone that listens to it as well. The number 4, personal growth, setting and achieving goals and learning new skills and being open to new ideas and growing as a person. That really sounds like being dynamic, actually.
Yes, very dynamic.
There's so many words and verbiage in here, and I got this off of the research that I was doing. It almost sounds like your personal growth is all of that anyway. So,
Yes.
which goes to show that so many of us are dynamic and never think of ourselves as that. But how about, are you for personal growth, and your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely think that it's almost like a scaffold of the ones that we've talked about. It's that, once you get a bit older and you have education, you have financial stability, and you have those big relationships, that your world completely opens up. Whether by the people that you're meeting or the places that you're able to go to, that you're able to grow and try new things and hopefully be more open to the world around you. And I think that that's the best time to have personal growth, is when you're becoming an adult, is what it feels like.
However, I think you can have that personal growth at any age.
For sure.
I don't know if we're as conscious of it, when we're younger, that we're having growth. If there's more conscious parents and guardians and coaches, teachers that uses verbiage like that, then they would know that you are growing right here. You're having this growth. And I think that I would just say, if you're not using that, maybe just use that verbiage a little bit, growing along the way.
Yeah.
And evolving, and what other words is used in your household.
That'll make it a lot easier for when they get older, if you start that at a young age, that they won't get kind of shell shocked and scared when they're thrown into the adult world and they've never had those words said to them or those experiences, so that it helps them transition easier.
I think for me, if you're preparing those that do have children or are guardians of kids of some kind, if you're just teaching them along the way how to be the skills and responsible and all the stuff that that they're going to open their life up to as they go, while still enhancing being kids and having fun, and that if we're teaching that in schools more, that would be great.
That would be great. Yes, I agree as a teacher.
Yes. Now, number 5, starting a family or choosing not to.
Mm,
So, deciding what family means to you. Now, we've done family dynamics.
yes.
We know that family is what you choose it to be, which may be with kids, without kids, biological family, blood family, and then who you choose it to be. I mean, we had a big list of what they consider family to
Very
be,
true.
right? What do you think about the part about starting a family or choosing not to? I mean, do you think that probably mean like having children? Because people have pet families. Sometimes that is because they just choose not to have bring kids in, but their family is maybe pets or nieces and nephews or fostering. There could be so many
Right.
things, both animals or children that way.
That's
So,
very true, and I think that's a really big one because not that everyone does this and that is their own life path, but for me, I wouldn't want to expand my family without feeling like I was following all those other boxes that we mentioned beforehand of financial stability and having a career and having, people that I could support and that could support me in that journey. And so I know some people have different life paths, and for me, I'm excited to be able to see that in my future and know that that's a possibility to have children or to have animals or both, and that'll eventually be part of my adult life and that expansion for myself.
yeah, that's awesome. I think we've always been so open with you around setting you up along the way to go, we're not going to do a lot of this stuff for you. How many uncomfortable conversations you might have had to have? Oh, I don't like doing this. I don't like doing that. Okay, well, that doesn't matter. You
You
know,
gotta do it.
it's time for you to take
Yes.
responsibility, and whether it's finances or whether it's just choices that you're making along the way, or whether it's choosing who you want to be in your life and who do you want to be as a person and all that stuff. It's a individual choice of stuff, and that who do you want to be in the middle of it all?
Yes, I tell my kids that every day when they say, "Oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't remember. I can't do it." And I said, "Well, you can and you will." And that's just it. You'll find a way to do it and you will do it. And that really motivates them to think, okay, well, I can do it and I will figure it out, even if it's not today, even if it's in 2 weeks, that they will eventually get to that point that they do know how to do it or they do know how to be confident in that skill. And so even for me being an adult, I don't like doing phone calls. I don't like going talking people over the phone. It has to come to that point that I have to and I will, even if it's uncomfortable, and that the more I do it, it'll be just an easy thing for me to do.
Right. Good point. And just that thing, it's like I said, from one step and then the next day you feel like, what are the skills are we learning along the way, and the themes and the values and virtues and all that. It's almost like the key underlining things that will help you at any age. And then by the time you get to be an adult and adulting, that it's just a natural flow. You'd feel more comfortable, more known versus unknown. But I mean, life is that anyway. You're going to come up against everything. That's what about exploring at any age is going to do. Adulting just means that a lot of times you're doing it with a more mature brain that's developed, and more mature mind, your emotions, your health, your well being, your spiritual, your relationships, all that is just more developed and more mature-ish and more conscious of what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, do you oftentimes think about do you ask yourself more why now as an adult? Why am I doing this? Why did I do that? Why do I believe what I believe? Why am I doing this or that? Or did you ask yourself that as a kid and teen as much as you do as an adult now?
Yeah, I definitely think that I ask a lot more why. I think when I was not in the adult mindset, is that a lot of the choices that were around me were kind of just that I had to do it, and I didn't really think about why I was doing it or why someone was making me do this or why someone was making me feel this way. I kind of just was, in a way, breezing around and trying to figure myself out, so I wasn't really thinking about what I would wanna do or asking myself why I did something. But now that I have more control over the things that I do, the ways that I act, I kind of ask myself a lot more before and after situations of why I did that or how that would benefit me, or why was I thinking that way. And I think that's just the natural process of becoming more of yourself and having your own personality and becoming who you need to be, is to ask yourself questions, and that you don't always gonna like the answer that you give yourself, but at least you'll be able to have that internalized conversation and know how to do better in the future.
Right. And then the thing about anything is like, okay, well, if I don't like this anymore, I don't like the choices I made here, then what do I prefer? So there's the why questions and there's the what. What do I prefer now instead? Anyway, you guys all figure out what verbiage works best for you. There's some words that if they're not feeling right, I always say go to the definition and look at 3 or 4 sources of what societarial and dictionary styles and even the AI now is defining it as, and then decide what works for you. And then you can define it differently. So, listeners, audience, community, how are you doing with this information so far? Is it making sense? How do you feel about adulting and everything that is for you? I mean, we're just touching the overview of it. We're not even getting into real deep stuff yet.
That's very true.
Yeah, but we always said that we want our podcast 30 minutes or less. So that's why we're getting into it. And then I usually have more conversations on text and emails later from this than continuing. But I think in 2026, we'll be delving into it just a little bit more. Now, practical tools for adulting. Do you want to just go over a few?
Sounds good.
Okay, so be you.
That's simple for some people, but
Yeah. Well, the gift is you. And people don't understand that there's no one else like you. There's no one else with your DNA, with your thoughts, with your emotions. And being you is the gift. Authenticity is sometimes it's not always appreciated
right.
or acknowledged or even being you. How do you feel like about your journey on being you?
Well, it's ever evolving and you'll become more of yourself as you get older, and that's just how it goes, and that's a big part of adulting for sure, is being okay with that.
And who do you want to be? And always being open to change because you're always becoming something. So what do you want to become? Do you want to feel good or feel bad? And everything that goes underneath that. Journaling, gratitude or otherwise. Have you journaled, whether it's handwriting journal or whether it's making notes, voice texting to yourself, whether it's like I do, these podcasts?
I definitely don't think I've done it enough. I've done it at certain points in my life, but definitely not something that I've personally done. I think that it can be helpful for a lot of people, especially if they're going through a tough situation. They want to get clarity and be able to go back and kind of realize that they did get through it. That's a really good way to look at journaling.
Yeah, or being able just to express your emotions in the moment or in the day and how you're feeling, and just really that self-care, because self-care is all ages.
Right.
Okay, so there's a few more that we'll get through really fast. Wealth planners, staying on top of your financial stuff. What do you
I definitely think that wealth planning, or having, just a hard line of how you spend your money. Like for me, I always try to put a big amount of my money into savings, and then I don't touch that savings.
Right.
And that kind of helps me, even though I do like to spend some, that I can only have a certain limit.
Right. And remember, wealth is not always money. So we did wealth dynamics
Right.
and we have the resources of that. So you can go back and listen to that and read the blog. Wealth is so much more than just the physical money and the version of that, opening up our mind more around what is truly wealth. Planners or even planning everything that wealth is, knowing all of that and opening your evolution around the word wealth. Health practices.
Yes, I definitely think that as you get older, and it's a good tool to have, again, health in terms of how you eat, how you treat yourself, how active you are. I think all those things become hopefully easier as you get older because you have more access to the way that you want to do that works for you.
Yes, and your overall well-being of health too, right? Because there's even the health of your wealth and the
Very
health
true.
of your relationships and the health of the physical and the health of the mind. So again, health dynamics we've already done. And so again, you can go back to that. Support networks, so family, friends, support groups, professionals when you need help. I think I had a session the other day because it is important for those that are sharing resources or sharing energy or doing healing work or creating. They also need support from family, friends, and maybe even someone else that's a peer to them. So how do you feel about support?
I definitely think support networks are important because it helps with your own growth and their growth as well if it's a very good support system.
Yes. Mindfulness, so managing your stress and staying present in the moment, like what works best for you around that?
I definitely think that it's important to be mindful and to manage what you need in that moment and what's most important for you as being able to be mindful of my own reactions and choosing that.
Yes, and again, we have mind dynamics that you can
Yes.
go back with the resources and figure it out. Time management, so keeping track of your schedule and priorities, how important is that to you?
I think it's really important. I've had a big struggle with that since I like to procrastinate quite a lot. But being able to just have the harder deadlines for myself makes it a lot easier to get things done. And if there isn't a hard deadline, it can make it so that I'm doing it last minute. And that's something that I'm slowly getting better at. And, again, part of adulting that sometimes you don't get hard deadlines and you just have to do it when you do it.
Yeah. And then dynamics, go to any of our dynamics and view the resources around them. So I think that's also one of the tools because our whole focus is about offering resources and then you figuring it out what you want to do with them all
Very
and
true.
doing more research. You could agree with what we say or not agree with what we say. It doesn't really matter to us. What matters is that you find out what serves you the best in any of the subject matters in any of the podcasts, blogs, or any of the resources that we offer.
Right.
Okay, our Dynamics community, take a moment to reflect on the show. What has it made you most aware of around living a dynamic life? When it comes to being an adult, and what resources will you use? How will you make this information uniquely yours? And what will you become from this? We can't wait to hear about it. You can reach out through dynamicseries.com, dynamicshow.info, and let us know. What now? So we challenge you to take action, share this episode with someone who may needs it, and explore the past recordings to keep the conversation alive. Because your dynamic journey does not stop here or anytime. There's so much more waiting for you, and we invite you again to follow, subscribe, share, support, shift. And then keep in mind, all materials are shared on this show are copyrighted and meant for informational purposes. And until next time, we say thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in to the Dynamic Show. Makota, again, thank you for continuing being a guest on these different dynamics. I love your perspective. I think that it's important that we can have discussions about certain subjects. What we take away from this is what serves ourselves, or we take away, oh, maybe, oh, I'll try this. Oh, that was a good thought. Let's do that. There's so many things that can come from having a discussion with someone else and getting different perspectives.
Yes, I definitely agree. Thanks for having me on this.
Yeah. So again, thank you for your time and your knowledge that you're sharing with our community. Align with your dynamic well-being every day and make it a dynamic day.
Make it a dynamic day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.